Um, yeah, it's like kind of an awkward start,
Don't worry about it.
as I'm sure all of these are.
That's exactly right. It's rather strange because it's perfectly understandable psychologically. You get used to seeing someone in a I'm talking, and then suddenly I'm talking back, and it's your brain kind of like. I remember, when I talked to Peterson, I had exactly the same thing. It was kind of like,
Oh yeah, I just met him the other night.
oh yeah,
Maybe 2 weeks ago
okay.
in Rochester, and yeah, it was a wreck. I went to a carving retreat with Jonathan Pageau.
Oh wow!
So I talked about that, but everything else on my list that I was like, oh, I gotta tell him thank you for this and like what I've learned, and none of it came out. None of it. So I'm sure he knows, and through everyone else.
Yeah, he gets it. He gets it all the time. So
Yeah.
it's you shouldn't feel embarrassed by it. It's just the way it is. So
Yeah. Yeah.
No big deal. Well, so you live in Rochester, and you sent, I'll tell you, we haven't done the Freddie and Paul show because Freddie's been in the hospital, and
oh no.
Yeah, I don't want to go into too much in case we publicize it. But he basically slipped into pretty severe depression, and he's just really depressed right now. And so doesn't want to talk on the phone, doesn't want visitors.
Oh man.
Yeah. So people have been writing and said, well, you haven't done the Freddie and Paul show for a while. And you're the backtrack that you made for him. He just loved it. And
oh, good.
He's used it. He's used it so often. I get tired of hearing it.
Sure. Oh,
but
man, that's rough because he brings so much joy to, at least to me.
Yeah, and to a lot of people. I mean, his mother, who's also a member of the church, she shows up on the show fairly regularly. She, she's impressed by, wow, for these people really connect with Freddie, and they do, and so it's, I continue to pray that Freddie, I think it'll be a temporary thing. It's happened before, and
okay,
he's come out of it before. So, but it's, part of it is, mental illness, stigma. Freddie doesn't have an easy life anyway. He really doesn't.
Sure.
And the show that we do, and then him singing on Sunday mornings is one of the real highlights for him of his week. And this is why we started doing the show, because he says to me one day, he says, "You and I ought to do a TV show." So I'm afraid I don't think anybody's going to put us on TV. But I can,
what YouTube's for.
That's right. That's what YouTube's for. Why don't we I'll just use my cell phone. We'll do little 5-minute shows, and I'll post it on YouTube. And I never, that was before Jordan Peterson or anything. And nobody ever watched them. And, we had 20, 10, 15 people would watch them, mostly church and family and friends. And then, of course, this happened, and Freddie's just he's loving it.
Oh yeah, I bet.
So yeah, he's really depressed when he's got no interest in making shows or making raps. So
right.
That's what's up with Freddie.
Well, I hope it turns around for him.
Yeah, I think it will. It has in the past. It probably will again. But it's, as Peterson's talked about this too, and I've seen it in so many other people. Depression is just brutal. It's just brutal because so many things that cause pain you can maybe escape, but you can't escape your own head. You can't escape your own thoughts.
Right.
So
you gotta find ways to cope and remember those.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. You live in Rochester?
Yeah. Yeah, I live in Rochester, New York, right near Lake Ontario. I have 2 dogs sitting over here. uh, go to school for business,
Okay.
but needed a creative aspect to that. So I'm in the process of, there's a pretty competitive welding program school around me. And I went to an interview for that. Fingers crossed that'll be kind of supplement to, that'll probably be the primary focus of my career. And then
Okay.
the business will kind of allow me to move into supervisory roles or something like that.
Yeah. I have a cousin who's a welder, and
Really?
it's been a good vocation. He welded for years
Yeah.
for other people, and then basically figured he had enough reputation in the community. He lives in a small town in Massachusetts, and went out on his own. And he's not a mogul or anything, but he's been able to make a living for himself and his family, and it's been a great trade. So
Yeah. And the workforce is aging, so
yeah.
there's it's a good time, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's true for a lot of the trades. As a culture, I don't think we have valued them sufficiently. We try to push everyone into college, but not everyone should go to college. It's
Right.
it's a niche that we have elevated, and
Yeah, it took me a while to figure out, enough is enough. This is not, I'm not, a business guy. I don't want to work in an office. I want to work with my hands. So
yep, yep. Oh, and thank you for the carving you sent me.
yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I've got it up on my shelf, and sometimes people come in and say, "What's that?" That's the lobster, and then that's the serpent eating his own
Yeah, the
tail, and it's
Ouroboros or
infinity and
however.
chaos, and oh
Yeah, that's probably hard to explain. At least.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
there's
no,
a lot of me
I
that's hard to
wanted you to have
explain. So
something physical um, to look at and just know you're doing the right thing. I think
thank you.
helping people out.
So what's on your mind? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about my journey
Yeah.
in faith and that kind of dimension, I guess. Recently I was in the Navy. I had a brain injury and was medically discharged. And then after that was maybe a year or two after that, I started getting into Peterson. And from something that happened in the Navy, I don't want to get into that, but I was agoraphobic. And so Peterson helped me, like after I had been able to like leave the house and like go out and during the daytime and stuff like that, he helped me understand why I was feeling like that. So that helped in that aspect. And then he started doing the biblical lectures and really got into that. I'd been an atheist since 14, 15. And at that point, 25 or 26, maybe 20, I don't know. But
were your parents Christians?
yeah, I was raised Lutheran.
Okay.
And then when my mom remarried, we went to Presbyterian church. But by then I wasn't there. I had no faith, didn't find it compelling or interesting or any of that. So the biblical lectures kind of brought me around to being open to the idea of God, and then I needed to forgive a parent I hadn't talked to in 2 years, and that whole side of the family hadn't spoken with them or seen them in those 2 years. And I knew I wanted to forgive, but I was finding it really difficult. I felt justified in all the anger I was still holding on to. So I think at one point in his lectures, Peterson talked about viewing God as the kind of perfect father. And so I was able to just kind of say to myself, well, God said I should, so I will. And really work towards it. Spent a few years in therapy, or I had been in therapy by the time I watched those videos, but that kind of kicked it into high gear. And yeah, so then I started going to this Jewish temple, Reform temple, with the idea that I wanted a more disciplined religion, and I was pretty resentful still of the church. So I thought, Orthodox Judaism is very strict. There's, you do this, and it was a lot like the military in my eyes, just keeping yourself on the straight and narrow. And but the Reform Jews are very accepting of converts, and it's more of a like, you do you are Jewish the way no one can tell you how to be Jewish. I think their philosophy, and I'm probably butchering that, but so I spent a year there, and got to be a part of that community, helping out, set up, and I still play guitar there, maybe once a month. And then through your videos on C.S. Lewis's Miracles, I don't remember exactly what it is, but what it was, but I was able to accept Christ as my Lord and Savior, the whole.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm so far down the rabbit hole now that it doesn't even matter how it started. But so at that point, I really started to move away from Peterson's stuff, because I had seen all of his classes and the biblical lectures, and got really into Jonathan Pageau and his channel. So I decided I would check out an Orthodox church. Looked at a few in my area, and was having some trouble connecting over the phone with one. So I Googled another one, and it was all in English. So that's great, way better than half Russian services. So I called the priest, and he called me back in a half an hour, and went to service that, I think it was that night. He gave me a big bear hug, and there was another convert there waiting for me to introduce me to the service that Wednesday night, and what is Vespers, and here's the layout, and here's what you do. And it was insanely welcoming. I was just crazy. So I've been going there ever since. I have my chrismation, confirmation into the church on Sunday.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and that process kind of was pushed forward by I just sold my house and had some money left over, paid my car off, and then Jonathan puts up this thing at the end of one of his videos about the carving retreat in Connecticut, which is, you know, a 5-hour drive for me. So said that's, the timing is perfect. Like I have the money for it, and so sign up for it. And probably one of the most impactful experiences I've had in my whole life.
Wow. What made it so impactful?
Just being, well, leading up to it, I thought, you know, well, it'll be a great experience for me, or a great time for me to ask him about the Orthodox Church and what I should do. And I was thinking, well, it'd probably be even better if I just went and then talked to him about what I experienced, and then it just kind of exponentially got me even closer. But while I was there, it was at a Catholic seminary, so I could go down to the chapel whenever I wanted and pray, and beautiful art everywhere, and just, I don't know, it was calm, and we had a lot of great discussion. So there were 4 people in the carving class. There's a painting class and the carving class, which Jonathan was obviously the carving class. And we had this guy who is a 3D sculptor on the computer for video games, and was kind of in the same Peterson Pageau track. And there was a Jungian psychologist who interpreted dreams and like had a degree from Munich. So she had a lot of interesting things to say. And then there was a pastor who led a homeless shelter for his whole career, with lots of great stories. And
you get a lot of stories in that work.
Man, yeah, that was intense. But yeah, it was a great discussion, great environment. There was a little drama with where we were, but I won't get to that. But
that's okay.
It was eventful for sure.
There's always drama. I'm just gonna try and get out of the sun.
Right. No.
There's always drama in one way. Well, I did worse.
Yeah,
one way or another. Go this way. Yeah, we're redoing. I've got kids going to college, and so we're redoing rooms and waiting on a mattress delivery. So that's why I'm not in my office, working from home today.
Right. Okay. I didn't realize they were that old.
So I've got 5. Oldest is, how old is he now? Oldest is 27 and the youngest is 18.
Great.
So the youngest is going off to college for the first time.
Exciting.
Yeah. Kind of traumatic.
Lots of feelings.
Yeah, lots of feelings. My wife usually has those feelings for me, but I was watching him pack the other day, and it's like, oh no. But now was this a thing that Jonathan did by himself, or was he part of a larger thing?
Yeah, it was. I don't know how to pronounce it. Hexameron. Is an Orthodox teaching organization. So there's this guy Merrick who does the painting class, who's more or oversees it more.
Okay.
And lives in that area of Connecticut. Okay. And then he does the South Carolina one too, which I think Jonathan might still be at right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's put on by them, and then the seminary is just the venue.
Okay. Wow. So you have been on a journey.
Oh yeah. I'm constantly like, every once in a while, just be like, what the heck am I doing? This is crazy. Like 14-year-old Adam would slap me across the face.
Yeah. Well,
And
don't
then
worry
I'd
about it.
slap him
He's
back.
only 14. What does he
Right.
know?
Yeah. Right. But it's
learned a
never
thing or
like,
two.
a crisis of faith or anything. It's just like, wow, I'm really going down this path.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're very much tooled for, doing stuff with your hands. You're looking at welding. You did a carving thing. What did you carve, and what did you work on, and what are you working on?
Yeah. I actually put it here so I don't have to get up. But this is what we carved.
Oh wow.
I don't know if you see it in the shadow, but
yeah.
That's not, that's Jonathan and his help. Like, it's beautiful. Jonathan helps a lot. And then I have Out of Reach, Angel Gabriel I did, and then I gave one to Jordan, of Saint Nick, and he has a sword in one hand and the church in the other.
Okay.
Kind of chaos and order seems appropriate to give him.
Yeah. I cannot imagine all the gifts and books and things he's given when he's doing these things every night. Because I saw people giving him stuff when he was in Sacramento, and it's like, okay, this is just Sacramento. He's doing this in the first round. He did like 45 cities in 60 days. Now he's doing a whole new. It's like, dude, you're going to need a storage unit for all this stuff.
He's going to have to take some communist propaganda out this Yeah. So another guy I was like, when I was waiting in line for the picture, I was holding this little wooden icon, like, oh my God, I feel like an idiot. Like, what is he going to do with this? And then a guy in front of me had painted a portrait of him.
Wow.
I was like, all right, I'm not the only one. That's puts a lot, takes a lot of pressure off of me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No,
I'm not really.
Go ahead.
I'm not really concerned about what he does with it. I just, why not?
I completely agree. I was thinking, he's given so many books. I'm sure he's got duplicates. I'm sure everybody's given him, because when I first listened to him, I thought, oh gosh, this guy's got to read C.S. Lewis. I mean, why? How is he not talking about C.S. Lewis when he's dealing with the intersectionality between myth and faith? And so my first thought was, I'm going to fire off I'm going to get on Amazon and send him a book. And then I thought, no, wait a minute. And then the more I began to appreciate the size of his following, I thought, and then the nature of his following. And then in the San Francisco event I went to early on, I met a bunch of people who were given him books, and it's like, well, shoot,
Yeah, he'll never get around to it.
No,
unless he wants to.
That's exactly it. And people will often, people send me all kinds of book recommendations and video recommendations, and I can't read it all. I can't keep up with it all. But then I watch myself seeing which things I pick up. And, as a Christian, I think, well, this is God at work in my life. And I often find that, what's that?
The Holy Spirit's helping you out.
That's right. And these things are, boy, this is really timely, and how wonderful this person sent this to me. And it was just at the right time. And now, if you're an agnostic, you're going to say, well, that's just your subconscious. Well, okay. But I don't know, if you believe in God, you believe God is working and stuff, at least if you're not a deist.
When everything seems to time up perfectly, it's hard to maintain that idea that it's just, neurons, and I don't know.
Well, it was years ago when I've always been thinking about books to write, and I never get around to it just because I'm way too ADHD. I was thinking, I was going to title a book, You Can Get There From Here, because so often my sermons are so all around the place, and you can get almost anywhere from anywhere. And was that just us projecting structure onto chaos, or is in fact, as God in fact made the world in such a way that there are deep connections beneath things, and obviously all things then come to fruition in Him. So
yeah, like Jonathan says, everything's pointing to the same thing, to that end, in some sense. Yeah.
So with your welding, are you going to start first with someone else, or are you going to try and go it on your own at first, or?
Well, I try to keep it open-ended. I don't think I would immediately start like freelance work.
Yeah.
But there is a metal artist in Rochester who's pretty famous, and has a team of welders, and I think that would be like right up my alley to work with him, even though it's abstract, so it's not as appealing, but still art. So
yeah.
But the more realistic thing would be to find a company and then branch off at some point.
How is Rochester doing? I mean, the fall of Kodak has to be just devastating for a community like that.
Well, so both of my grandfathers were engineers at Kodak. My parents met at Kodak in the summer job. Yeah, and I think my great uncle was at Kodak. So everybody has someone who worked at Kodak in their family. My uncle worked at Kodak for a number of years before he was laid off. But the interesting thing is everyone was so worried about layoffs and all of that. We were kind of insulated from the recession because no one was buying houses at that point. So in some way it kind of smooths that out, I think, or at least I've heard. But it's hard to tell because I feel like every city like that would say, "Oh, we're bouncing back," and it does seem like that to me.
Okay.
Towns are expanding, and there's more stuff to do, and there's lots of events. The Jazz Fest is huge in Rochester. There's a Puerto Rican, I don't know how you, but festival in Rochester, and arts are big, and so I'm doing all right.
My parents lived in, I was just gonna go over here to Google Maps. My parents lived in Baldwinsville.
Okay. Out in the sticks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Baldwinsville.
Bit.
Let's see how far that is from. It's quite a bit further east. It's northwest of Syracuse.
Oh, okay.
And my father spent 36 years in Paterson, and then wanted to have at least one other church experience before he retired. So he took the call to a little church in Baldwinsville, just northwest of Syracuse, and of course loved it. He loved ministry. Yeah. He loved churches. He loved people, and but a lot of snow.
Oh man, yeah.
A lot of cold.
If my brother-in-law weren't so tied to Rochester with his family, and I think we would all head south. My little sister is very intent on trying to get us all to move somewhere warmer. But,
yeah. Well, there's a lot of warmer places. You guys have a brutal winter.
Yeah. Well, we were spoiled too. I think. So Sarah, my little sister, was born in California. We lived in Yorba Linda, which is kind of near San Diego.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's so from when I was 2 to 2nd grade, we lived out there, and
then to Rochester. Oh,
back to Rochester weather.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's painful.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because all the kids, they graduate high school here in Northern California. Where do you want to go to school? San Diego.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Perfect weather, right by the coast. Gorgeous. Until they, I want to live by San Diego. Oh yeah, you're gonna buy a house? Good luck.
Yeah, have fun with that. Right. As soon as you're done with college, you're not going to be living there.
Nope. You can get a lot of houses cheap in Rochester.
Oh yeah, it's great here. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. So you're making your way into the Orthodox Church, and you're settling in. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. I think what people misunderstand about church is it's not for you. Like if you're going to church to try and get something out of it, you're wrong. You will, but if that's your aim, I don't think that you're going to accomplish it.
Yeah.
But I think being active in the community and interacting with people, especially people you would not interact with normally. Like I take this guy grocery shopping twice a month. He's 62. When would I ever hang out with someone that age?
Yeah.
But he's great to talk to, and we have a great time. And there's another guy who's blind and learning disabled. I'm not sure specifically, but we go to this burger joint in our area, and just talk, and help. We were doing some renovations in the basement of the church, so they took out all the gross drop ceiling and made kind of an industrial look, and replaced the ductwork with round ones, and LED lighting, and painted the walls. We put tapestries up and icons around the borders, and just made it a nice welcoming place for blood drives and like women's groups in the area, and single mothers, and just whatever happens to be what we want to do, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But that process was great. I got to know so many great people who came to help out and mop and clean up after the construction crew, and kind of rearrange the storage and all this stuff. And it's just been really rewarding, and I don't think I ever felt that way in my other church. It was bigger. This one's really tiny. It's in the city. so the community's a lot closer.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to find a welcoming place first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's
small churches can be hard to get into, but they very much become a family.
Yeah, well, help out, and everybody will,
No, that's right. That's right.
You can't really push someone out or tell them they're not welcome if you're grabbing a mop and.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, I think more people in my position, in that Peterson group, I'd just like to see more people going to church.
Yeah.
And experiencing that kind of joy.
Yeah.
Because it's so grim without, like I was just super nihilistic and before all this, and was trying to kind of find a framework for living my life, and because it's not always clear what you should do, and also know your limits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Of how you can help people. And so I was looking at, Ayn Rand, and that got rid of that pretty quickly. And then there was this 12 Rules of Life kind of book by Gary Johnson. It's like 10 Rules for Good Government or something. And I got one thing out of that. He said, if someone ought to know something, tell them it, and tell them immediately. And that was kind of connected with some regret he had after his wife had passed. But it was just coming up short. And then, obviously, why not use the book that people have been using for centuries, and the tradition and all that. And I feel like I'm going on a tangent here, but
no, it's not a tangent.
Yeah, and I've just been having a lot of fun reading the early church fathers. So Jonathan Pageau had a talk you probably may have seen on the life of Moses by Gregory of Nyssa.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Okay, that's a good one. I don't know the title of it, but that book blew my mind. He goes through the life of Moses just as a summary in the first book, and then the second book is what it all means kind of pragmatically. So Moses ascends the mountain because as you go up a mountain, you can see more, you have a wider perspective. And that kind of, I don't want to, I don't have that firm of a grasp on these things, but it was great. And then I just started reading, I don't know, a lot of saints, and my priest has been feeding me books, and just been reading like mad. Having a lot of fun.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrific. No, your story encourages me.
Good.
It's good. It's good. That's good. And
I was wondering if I could quote you.
Quote me? Okay. Go for it.
There was something that I found so useful. I clipped it out and put it on my Instagram as kind of a way to remember it. But it was the end of one of your sermons, one of the practice ones. So it's kind of long, but I'll read it back to you. You said, he does the heavy lifting, but in a sense, like a father does to his son. If the father is, let's say, working on the car, and the son comes along and says, I want to help, it is to the father and the son's glory that the son gets to participate. And that is it. And that is, in a sense, sorry, my handwriting is terrible. And that is, in a sense, what we do. And so then the question is, even if we're laughing like Abraham, even if we're on our face laughing, we're doing worship, but we hardly believe what we're doing. And there are pieces of our heart saying, God's never going to come through. We will be lost. We will be cut off. I'll never have a son. It will never come to pass. Yet I will worship still. Yet I will love my neighbor as I love myself. Yet I will do this even if everything fails. And at that moment, we begin to understand what faith is.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I teared up the first time that it's just been so useful to go back, and whenever I'm like, what am I doing here? And then I remember, all right, just do it. Read another book.
Yeah.
And I read another book and I'm like invigorated again, or I go to pick up service during the week, and because the Orthodox have crazy amounts of services. Well, it's like my church is tiny, and we have a service on Sunday. There's a morning matins, 7:30 on Wednesday, and then a night vespers at 5 on Wednesday, and then there's a noon service. They're called the Atheist on Fridays. And then if it's a feast day for something, sometimes there's Thursdays, sometimes there's Saturdays. And so I think it kind of brings me back to the seminary, where I could just go whenever I wanted to worship or pray or just sit there. So that, I think that access is really beneficial to me.
Oh, it's a beautiful faithfulness where even the holding of the service is not contingent upon getting a whole bunch of people. That they are finally really there for God, just like you began saying. The church really isn't about you. Mm-hmm. And when it's called a worship service, and yeah, you're serving the people, but you're really serving the Lord. And so even if just a few saints show up in the morning, and I would imagine with a small church with that many services, you've always got a few saints that show up whenever the door is open, often retired people or something of that nature. But even if you're gathering with 2 or 3, you're there for God, and that kind of self-giving, it's the irony is that people talk about love. Oh, it's about love. But okay, well, what do you mean by love? And it's usually that people express love to me. But Jesus said, and he's right, it's more blessed to give than to receive. It's a different thing, but that is the joy. In many ways, that is the joy of love. It's always nice to feel love, but to give love, there is a power and a joy in that in some ways this world can't comprehend, because you don't comprehend it unless you do it. And it's not natural to do often. Sometimes it is, but often it isn't.
Yeah.
Why would you go up to that little church and I'm sure that, you showing up encourages everyone who is there. But none of you are there for yourselves. You're there for God.
Right.
It's hard to, it's not something easily sold to a consumerist society.
Well, I think it's one thing that no one can do anything about. No one can take that away from you.
Yeah.
Like, God's not going to reject it.
No.
And you're not giving it to anyone that's able to reject it. Like, it's more solid than, I don't know.
Oh, that's true. Well, my mattress is a few minutes away. So anything you wanna touch on before we land the plane?
Let me take a look. I think we covered everything I wanted to talk about. Yeah, and then just on the inclusivity and welcoming. Well, I don't know. It's not relevant, but one thing we do in the Orthodox Church is there's closed communion. So I've, like, until Sunday, I haven't participated in that yet.
Yeah.
But it's great because as everyone comes up, there's the bread and the wine that are in the cup. There's, you get a little bit of bread and some wine in the spoon, and then as they come around, the leftover bread is in a bowl, and it is bread. There's the body of Christ, and then there's the bread.
Yep.
So they take the bread and their little cubes, and then people just come up to me. I'll be sitting in the pew because I have nothing to do at that point.
Right.
So they could, all sorts of people. I almost have a full stomach by the end of it because people just come up and give me bread, and it's like, you're not charismated, but we appreciate you here, and welcome, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That gives me much joy. Well, and good for you to stick with this process. I mean, people are like, well, I think I'll be Orthodox. I'm thinking, do you have any idea what that's going to take from you? This is not loosey-goosey church where you walk in and say, I want to be a member. Okay, into the tank you go. No, that's not how they roll at all. But there's there's a power in the cherishing, in the time and the seriousness that many churches miss out on in their haste, and many would-be members miss out on in their haste. So again, it's just a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Well, I have recorded this, and I will send it to you, and it's up to you what you'd like to do with it. If and I talked about Freddie a little bit, and I still haven't quite decided what I want to do with that announcement, because there's stigma and such associated with things like that. And but I so enjoyed hearing your story, and it's beautiful. And I like doing these talks because you and I have swapped messages back and forth a little bit, but seeing your face and hearing your story and knowing more about you, it just to me shows the richness of God's good earth and what he does in the world. And it encourages me. So I appreciate it.
Well, you've done a lot to help me out, and I wouldn't be here, if it weren't for your videos. My faith would not be as strong, I think. So
well, thank you. Thank you. Well, you take care, and
okay.
Congratulations on, I don't know if they take pictures in the Orthodox Church when you, what's that?
I'll tag you in the video if you want.
Okay.
They do a live stream. So.
All right. Take care, Adam.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Okay.
Thanks for talking.
Yep. Bye-bye.